So it's a great topic today, and something we've worked with Confex and EPS for a couple of years now, doing this type of content, because you guys spend a lot of money exhibiting. We know that can be a massive investment, and we just want to work with you to make sure that you guys are making the best of the opportunity. There's so much you can do as a team, at the show. Also, the M.I.C.E media team are so excited to help you guys as well, which I feel like sometimes we don't realise how available they are for us. So that's what we're going to be chatting about today. A little intro to start with. My name's Kate, hello, and my background is in hotels, sales, most proactive and reactive, so going out, bringing leads into a business, exhibiting at a lot of shows, including Confex years ago, and also reactive sales, so managing teams, conversion strategies, making sure that we're increasing revenue for hotels. I now run Selling Savvy, which I'll talk to you about in a bit, but essentially we are all sales geeks. We don't know about anything else, to be honest, but we do everything to do with sales, including mentoring, training, mystery shopping, etc. And just a little thing about me, I am very unsteady on my feet. I fall over all the time and often breaking my ankle. My husband just rolls his eyes now. He's like, oh yeah, not again, even when I'm looking for sympathy. So yes, that's a little bit about me. Please say hi in the comments. Would love to see who's here and who's watching. So a bit more about Selling Savvy. We offer niche sales training to hospitality, events and tourism industry. We are niche to this industry, and we like to train tangible tricks and tactics. So things that you can actually go away and do straight away. Not too much highbrow strategy going on today. It's more about things that you can implement straight away. And essentially, we are here to create moral salespeople. We want to make sure that all the conversations that you're having with clients are relationship driven, consultative. If you don't know that buzzword, I'm going to talk to you about it in a minute, and that they come back time and time again, essentially. Hi, we've got William from White Space Creative. Lovely to have you on. Thanks, William. Great to have you here. I keep pressing the wrong button, sorry. So today we are going to talk through your objective, first of all, why you've booked the show that you've booked. I'm going to talk a little bit about consultative selling as well, and how that really should be apparent from the prior to the show all the way through to follow-up. We're going to talk about standing out from the crowd and how you can do this without having to spend a massive amount of budget, essentially. We're going to talk about things to consider throughout the day, for you booking the show and for your team on the day. The on-the-day sales process, which is a little bit different to your normal sales process. And then lastly, following up effectively, potentially the most important thing. So that's what I'm going to cover today. If you've got questions or any comments, things that have worked in the past, things that haven't worked in the past, please do pop it in the chat. I'd love to hear any ideas that you've got or any things that you think, oh, I did that and it didn't work. How could I do it differently? So yeah, let's see if we can get some sort of bubbling ideas together. So to start with, I'm going to talk about the objective, what your objective is, and there's no answer here. You guys have to come up with this, I'm afraid, yourself. So I've got a few questions for you. Why have you booked this specific show? Why have you booked Confex or EPS over other shows that happen? There could be so many reasons for it. Is it because it's the right location, it attracts the right people, the exhibitors are your clients, that's what we find. Is it because the time of year is really good for you? Why have you booked this specific show? And why are you exhibiting rather than attending? You have spent lots of, you've invested a lot of money to exhibit, and what is the reason for that? Everybody has their own reasons. I'd love to hear it in the chat if you want to, if you're able to share it. Why are you exhibiting rather than going? It might be that you've attended in previous years and you've found that you're giving it a shot this year to see what exhibiting's like. It could be that you've exhibited for many years and it's always really worked for you. So let us know why you're exhibiting instead of attending. And as I said, why have you chosen this show over other exhibitions? Is it because the footfall is the right people for you? Have you found it previously? Have you heard from competitors it's good? It's really good to have this thought process. Sounds like I'm just trying to promote the show, but it's really good to have this thought process, because then you can work out what exactly, then you can work out what your objectives are after the show. I've got some examples here. What's your objective for the show? Is it that you want to get in front of large corporate bookers, and if you get one booking from it, or if you make one solid relationship, that's going to make your show, and actually the whole thing will be worth it? Is it because you want to get in front of event agents? Is that your strategy, that you want to grow that market, and that's why you're going to be exhibiting at this show? Is it because you want to catch up with regular bookers? Is it because you want to, you know that if you go around the country seeing all your regular bookers and having those strategic account meetings with them, that you are, that it's going to take a lot of time, could take months to get through everybody. But actually, you know everyone's going to be at this show, so why don't you get kind of do it all at once? I don't want to say kill lots of birds, but it was on the tip of my tongue. Could it be that you want team building bookers? These are just some examples. Or could it be that you want brand awareness, that actually your objective isn't necessarily linked to growth of revenue, and that it's more kind of less tangible than that, I guess, and that it's, I mean, I've had people on these sessions before where they've just started a new company and they're giving it a go and want to see how they get on with putting their brand out there. So there's lots of different things there. William, what you're saying, to meet potential clients that wish to build long-term relationships and work, amazing. Work with a trusted stand builder in the UK, amazing, yeah. So you want to meet potential clients. So it is about growth, it's about building relationships. It's great that you said potential there. We're going to talk a little bit about that relationship that you have with people at exhibitions, because it's not direct, the chances of getting booked out in exhibitions straight away and kind of seeing ROI so quickly is really, really slim. So yeah, absolutely, building long-term relationships, that's great, thank you. So let's move on to meeting your objectives. How are you going to make these objectives happen? This is obviously a relatively short session to go through all of this, but it's great to kind of have a little thought process around what you want to get out of it and then how you're going to get there. And these are a couple of tips of how to do that. So how is the success of the show measured? How are you going to make sure, so William, for instance, if you want to meet with potential clients, what does that look like? Who are they? How niche are you going? What is your ideal client look like? What size of business are they? What location are they in? You know, delve into what that looks like, and then how many of them would you like to meet ideally? And it's really easy to be like, oh, I want to meet 500 of them. That would be amazing. Actually, what's the kind of break where you think, oh, well, if I have 10 really strong conversations throughout the show where I think that would be great, I'm definitely going to have an appointment with them. That's pretty good, I'd say. So think about some figures so that afterwards you can reflect and be like, did that work? Did I do everything I could? How could I do it better next year? So how's the success of the show measured for you? What actions do you need to take to ensure you are meeting your objectives? So how are you going to get there? And this is your strategy. Strategy is such a swanky word. Basically, what's your 5-step plan to make sure you're going to get to that point? And we're going to talk about lots of different ideas of plans today as well. Also, how are you going to communicate your objectives and actions and wins to the team? So once you've decided what your objective is, and that might be a team conversation, it might not just be you, and you've decided how you're going to get there, it's important to work out how you're going to ensure that everybody's on the same page. Everyone on your stand knows the types of clients that you want to speak to, or they want to speak to, the types of conversations that they want to have, and what your objectives are and how you're going to get there, and what's going to make or break the show. What's going to mean that once you hit that 10, for instance, that's great. That's amazing. And also I've added in there, how do you communicate wins to the team? Because it's so important to involve your team and celebrate when things go right. So you've had a really good conversation, or they've had a really good conversation. How do you celebrate that amongst the team? Is it that you, I don't know, you could do anything really, but you just need to make sure that you have those little times when you celebrate and you're like, yes, that was such a good conversation, I'm excited to follow up with them. Being at an exhibition is amazing, but so exhausting. And everybody knows that your feet hurt, and like halfway through day 2, you're done with smiling, you know, and you get your face aches because you're smiling so much. So it's really important to keep yourself and your team lively by communicating wins to everybody. If you've just joined, say hello. It would be nice to see who's here. I'm going to go through a little bit of consultative selling now, and this is something that we specialise in at Selling Savvy, and that is because it is all about relationships, and it's all about making sure that your clients trust you and want to work with you, and you can do that in several different ways. And essentially it's all about being a good person rather than a pushy salesperson. So I've got a couple of statistics here for you to have a look at. 23% of buyers agree that sellers always put their needs first. So what do we think about that? Let me know what you think. We often hear that it's quite low. It's quite a low percentage, which can be a little bit frustrating as a salesperson, because we think we're trying to put their needs first and we're trying to show them. But 23% of buyers agree that sellers always put their needs first. And my next percentage is 89% of buyers agree that salespeople they do business with are trusted advisors. That's obviously a much higher percentage, and that that really shows that clients are doing business with people that they trust and that they know, and it means that what they want from salespeople is not just a sale. They want a holistic support around, you know, everything that they're looking to do, and making sure that their salespeople is on board with the holistic event rather than just their little bit. So consultative selling is turning you guys into a trusted advisor. I would love to hear if anybody already feels like they're doing consultative selling. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about it now, but pop in the chat if you've heard it before, if you feel like you do it day to day, or if there's kind of elements that you feel like you could do more of. I'm going to go through consultative versus product selling. What I tend to find, or what we tend to find, is that at exhibitions, people are good people. All of you people on this call I'm sure are lovely salespeople, and you're with the client's best interest at heart. At exhibitions, sometimes that tends to fall by the wayside because the pressure's on, you've got targets to hit, you need to make ROI, and because the time frame is so much shorter and you feel like you've only got 2 days to make sale, then things become a bit more pressurized, and it tends to turn into like pitches at clients. We certainly have it. We're not necessarily a client for a lot of the exhibitors at the show, but we find that, you know, I'll walk around and people will throw collateral at me and sweets and things like that, and I think, oh, don't waste it on me. I'm not your ideal client. So the point of this is to try and work out, which we're going to do, how we can make sure we're staying more in the consultative selling lane rather than falling into pitching product selling and just trying to push what we do onto everybody. So consultative selling focuses on talking about the prospect, and product-based selling focuses on talking about the product. So consultative selling is all about asking questions and letting the prospect or the person at your stand, a potential client, talk, letting them give you as much information as you can so that you can respond appropriately. Product-based selling is very much pitching, pushing your thoughts, ideas, you know, elevator pitch onto people, so that they, hoping that somebody's going to grab, or hoping that everyone's going to be interested. Consultative selling questions if the prospect needs the product. Product-based selling assumes that every prospect needs your product or service. So product-based selling, you can imagine it is that thrusting leaflets into people's hands and hoping that somebody's going to buy. It's a bit more of a numbers game. Consultative selling is speaking to people, being able to qualify them really quickly. We're going to talk about how to do that a little bit later, and making sure that you are qualifying early on so that you can then have solid conversations following that. So you do need to qualify it relatively quickly. Consultative selling, value is defined by the customer, and product-based selling, value is defined by the product. I'd love to hear in the chat if anybody thinks that has got any ideas around that, because sometimes it's a little bit hard to get your head around. So consultative selling, you understand exactly what your client wants. You understand everything that they need for their event or for their business, and you are able to prove the value of your service off the back of that information. Product-based selling is, this is my product, it's so valuable, why would you not want to buy it? Well, actually, they might not have the need for it, and then you're wasting your time. Absolutely. Jean is saying, we find that having a flowchart for conversations so we can filter out those that don't fit our ideal customer profiles. Absolutely, yeah. So it is working out those customer profiles and then trying to see it within conversations quite quickly, whether they fit it or not. And also you're then saving so much time. We're going to talk a little bit more about saving time later. But yeah, love that. So consultative selling, prospect does most or equal amount of talking, and product-based selling, salesperson does most of the talking. You can see here that with consultative selling, you're listening to the prospect, you're making sure that everything they're saying is going in so that you can respond appropriately. Product-based selling is a lot more, as I say, pitching, talking at people and hoping that they're interested. William, we certainly lean towards consultative selling approach. Every brief is unique and each client has different needs. Our experience spans working with both product-based and consultancy. That's great, yeah. So that's excellent. So making sure that you're tailoring everything to them, learning about them, and then tailoring it as much as you can. Yeah, definitely quick qualifying tool. That's what we need. We need quick qualifying tools at exhibitions, because you only get like 5 minutes to speak to people. So consultative selling, building long-term relationships. Product-based selling, short-term solution. Consultative selling, it's all about those relationships and proving that you are ideal for the client. And then product-based selling, it is going to be quicker wins, but it won't be as long-term. So when you're thinking about lifetime value and longevity of a business, consultative selling is definitely more appropriate. Consultative selling, conversation centres around probing sales questions. So as you can imagine, you're asking open questions, trying to get your prospect to just talk at you so you can digest it and think about how you're going to reply and what you can offer, if you cannot offer anything at all. Or it might be that you say, actually, it's not, I don't think we're right for you. Or product-based selling, conversation centres around explanations and descriptions. And my last and favourite one, consultative selling, motivated by customer success. Product-based selling, motivated by targets. And this is making sure that everything you're doing is based around the client and what they need and want. Product-based is very much like, yes, we've hit budget, amazing, right, move on to the next one. Consultative selling is all about making sure everything you do is with the client in mind, so that they are obviously going to come back again and again because you're, a raving fan of theirs. So that is an overview of consultative and product-based selling. As I said, it's really easy to fall into product-based selling when we're feeling a little bit pressured, as we do when we're exhibiting. So we're going to talk a bit later about how to speed up the sales process at the show whilst making sure we're being as consultative as possible. I'm going to talk about standing out from the crowd now, and I get asked lots of questions about this. So I'm going to start with a little story. I went to Devon recently with my family on a holiday. That looks like a very sunny picture. Just an FYI, it's from Google, not actually my picture. And we were driving back from Devon, and there's just fields and fields of cows, all the same, loads of them. It takes about 3.5 hours to drive back from Devon to my house, and there's just so many cows, and you just want to fall asleep. Beautiful, fields are a little bit boring. And then suddenly we see this purple cow, and everybody stopped. The traffic's awful, but we all get out the car. Everyone's taking photographs of this purple cow, putting them on social media, WhatsApping all my friends. Like, you'll never guess what we've just seen. Getting my son out the car. You never guess. All very excited. Traffic's at a standstill, but it was different. And that is what you want to be able to do on your stand. You want to find what your purple cow is. This is a well-known theory. I can't claim to have made it up, unfortunately. But the purple cow theory is about being different. That can be sometimes quite hard to do, and I often get lots of questions about how can I be different. I'm going to go through lots of ideas in a minute. But making sure that you are standing out from the crowd in one way or another, that's also in line with your brand, because at an exhibition, there are so many options for attendees to walk around, and it can be really busy and bright and exciting. But you just want to make sure that even if you've got a smaller stand, you don't have to have a massive stand for this. You want to make sure that you're the one that they remember. You're the one that they hypothetically take photos of and put on social media and tell their friends about. So how are you going to be a purple cow? There's a few options here. Obviously, you can go big or go home. You can have a whopping great big stand that looks amazing and 20 people on your stand, and that is great. However, I also want to, Gina's asked a good question, how can you stand out the crowd when you don't have a big budget? So yes, you can go big or go home. That takes quite a bit of budget, but there are other options you can do, which will be less expensive. Lovely gifts to give away. It could be that you're spending a little bit more money per gift, and that you're deciding to keep them back until you've had a really strong consultative conversation with somebody who you've qualified and you feel like they're going to be great. And then you think, right, now I'm going to give them this gift that we've put together, and maybe it's got a handwritten note in it or something. So you could spend a little bit of money on less gifts, but kind of for more qualified people. Another thing you could do is be impressively sustainable. There are lots of exhibitors that do this and do it really, really well. There are lots of exhibition stands that are made of pure cardboard that are recyclable. There's lots of different ideas that you could do. It could be in the gifts that you give away, that sort of thing. It's something I'm going to touch on later, sustainability, because it's important for us all to think about. However, it could be that your USP is that you're 100% sustainable for the show or something like that. And that's something you can then talk about when people come to your stand. Client interactions. It could be that the conversations you're having with clients are so memorable for them because you're interested in them and everything you offer is totally tailored to them, that they go away and think, oh God, that was good. I'm definitely going to speak to them after. That doesn't cost anything. That's just conversations that are really, really valuable to them, and they'll go away and remember them. Consultative conversations, similar, so you are asking them as many questions. I remember when I was little, I always say this, my mum always said to me, make sure that when you meet people, you ask them lots of questions, because people love talking about themselves. So ask lots of questions at these exhibitions. I still do it now. They will talk about themselves and they'll go away thinking, oh, they were really interested in me, and they gathered so much information. I'm excited to hear what they come back to me with. Rapport building. It could be that you're just a really nice person that people want to hang around, and you're really good at having that first interaction, and people will go away being like, oh, that person was really fun. I enjoyed that conversation. These are all things that can absolutely be your brand personal cow. It could be that you've got a great brand story, that what you've got to talk about is really interesting, and that it's kind of feeds through from all of the pre-show comms all the way through to your communication on the day, conversations you're having, and then post-show follow-up. You know, if you're like a family business or also 100% sustainable, B Corp, etc. Those sorts of things are really interesting for people. It could be, excuse me, an experience in its own right. So these sort of gimmicky things like the tombolas or like win a bottle of champagne, etc. They work really well. They're good at getting people to your stand to then be able to have conversations with them. It kind of, all of this goes a little bit back to your strategy at the start. So make sure that what you're doing, what you're deciding on your purple cow, or you might have a few purple cows, is in line with your strategy. If it is a bit of a numbers game and you want to get people to your stand, then these sorts of gimmicky things are great. If you're really there to meet a couple of really qualified people, then that might not be the route that you necessarily want to go down. You might go down more of the conversation route. Technology, it could be that you're a high-tech company and you've got great things. I remember a hotel brand was doing virtual VR headset show rounds at a show. That was really cool. So they were putting them on people and then they were walking around the venues. So there's all sorts of things you can do with technology which you might already have. Obviously, if you want to invest in it for the show, that's great. But there also might be virtual show rounds and things that you have on your website that you could just have up on the screen and take people around. Engagement, how are you going to engage with them and make sure that maybe you're at the front of your stand and you want to bring people onto your stand just through being engaging, talking to them, have a conversation with them. Two more, sorry. Drinks receptions. Lots of people have events at the show, an event in the event, and M.I.C.E Media, team at M.I.C.E Media want to know what the events are. They want to be able to promote them. There's a new initiative that we're going to be talking about later this afternoon, so that you can put any drinks receptions on there and invite people to it. I think it's via the app. We'll ask Gina and Saskia later. So it might be that you're going to hold an event and that's your purple cow, that it's going to be really hyped up and you're going to spend a little bit of money on getting some people there and having a good time and having your team there to have conversations with them. And then lastly, it could be fun, and it could just be that the whole vibe is exciting on your stand, there's music, you know, everyone's having a great time, and then people want to come and want to see you, and they're interested in what you're doing and want to be part of it, really. So Kat, how do you decide what gifts to give away? Oh, it's really difficult to decide what gifts to give away. It's hard to work out well, firstly, it's important to work out what your budget is. How much do you want to spend? Also, it's good to go back to your strategy. Do you want to spend a little bit more on some nicer gifts for really qualified people, or do you want to give pens out to everybody? You want them to be on brand in terms of like colour and logo, etc. But you also want them to be on brand in terms of your business vision and what you stand for. You want people to come away and enjoy it and use it rather than another branded pen. So yeah, it's hard, but there's a few different angles to do it. Make sure you check your budget, look at what your strategy is, ask your clients, ask regular clients, has there been a gift that you've had at a show that you've really liked, that you've found useful and you still use today, and you remember who gave it to you. Do a little bit of research around it. So that's your purple cow, and now I'm going to talk about the vibe on your stand. Vibe is such a like Gen Z word, but I'm just going with it now anyway. So how are you going to make sure that the vibe on your stand is right and attracts people to your stand? There's two things here. Obviously, images and branding. You want the stand to look great, and whether you have a tiny stand or a huge stand, it doesn't matter. It needs to look smart, and it needs to represent what you want. It needs to show to the world what you want to show to the world. But arguably, I would say the main thing that creates the vibe on your stand is you. It's you and your team and how you're acting on the stand. I'm going to go into how to act on the stand in a bit without teaching you how to suck eggs. There's some top tips from us. But your personality, the way you interact with people, the way you are when people aren't at your stand is the main thing that'll create that vibe and that environment in your little, piece of the world at that stage when people are walking past. So creating a vibe on your stand, I've got a few different examples here of different stands at different shows, and they've got very different vibes, and it's all about how they've projected themselves. So Lick Me I'm Delicious, amazing brand, shows their brand off so well at shows. Here we are. They are clearly, even by these photos, even without being there, they're clearly fun. They're different, they're lively, they're exciting. They have quite an open plan stand often, so people kind of wander off and wander on and off again. They're very informal. I don't know what their kind of uniform is at the show, but I could kind of imagine them in like jeans and like a black polo shirt, or even just wearing their own clothes, but they're all very cool people. That's how I envisage them being. They're very inviting. You can go onto their stand and have a go at their experiences that they have and not feel like you're getting sold to. I've never been sold on their stand, but yet I talk about them all the time. So perfect example. And they're non-salesy, that is their vibe, and then they can go up and chat to people if they've got time, but otherwise they're talking to more qualified people. Gina's saying one of our exhibitors is doing a giveaway trip to Bali, but some are doing a podcast recording, different budgets, but go for great examples. Yeah, Bagsy the trip to Bali, please. I'm definitely entering that. Yeah, so there you are. So many different budgets. You don't have to spend any money just to be kind of talked about at the show. Kat's wanting to win that trip to Bali as well. No. So that's Lick Me I'm Delicious. You can see a different type of stand here. So this is Amelia Hotels. Very different type of stand. This is at a few different exhibitions, but obviously the same brand. They are a lot more casual. You can see that it's quite calm. There's not really loads of action going on. It feels like somewhere where you'd want to go and have a chat and have a conversation. You can tell instantly by their branding and the colours that they've used that they're sustainable, and that's something that they're really passionate about. And the seating, the low kind of sofa, soft, comfortable seating invites informal chats. It invites people to come and sit and have a coffee or, have a chat with people. That it's clear that they want people to be hanging out on their stand and chatting. So think about what your vibe is. I'm not a branding expert, but when you're talking about getting people onto your stand and having decent conversations, it's important to decide what that environment should look like. Let me know if anyone's got any questions. Oh, I keep pressing the wrong button. Or if you've got any questions or anything, any ideas that you've done before, I'd love to hear it. We're going on to gathering information now. So this is on the day, how are you going to get as much information as you can, and how are you going to store that information? We're going to talk about the finer conversations in a little bit, but logistics first of all. Simple logistic. How are you planning on capturing people's data? There are ways to do this, lots of different ways to do this, but what I want you to think about is what's going to be easiest for you post-show to understand or to remember what the conversations are that you've had. So are you going to be using it on the app? Are you going to be using it on your CRM, directly into your CRM? Are you going to use a notebook? Everything needs to be, I think I've got on here, everything needs to be GDPR compliant, obviously. However, you want to make sure that you're gathering the information and then remembering it after the show. If you're anything like me, I will do the show and be like, I had such a great time, I met so many people. I can't remember any of their names. So make sure that you're capturing all that information because you will thank your future self when you're following up. Are you doing it virtually? As I said, be consultative with the information that you're gathering. So what notes are you taking? You're obviously taking information about their business, their needs, any requirements, the conversations that you had in terms of their potential use of you and your business. However, it's really important to write extra notes about whether they've just been on holiday, just got back from holiday in Italy, or whether they've, had an awful train journey down to the show or something. That stuff is the stuff that when you follow up, you're going to be able to instantly go back to them about and build those conversations from the off. So make sure that you are, writing, getting the right information, and then kind of having an external brain to remember it. So how can you prepare to be consultative in your follow-up? How can you make sure that that information is accessible to you and will help you in your follow-up at a later date? If you get an inquiry straight away at the show, what are you going to do? Are you going to say, that's great, I'll get back to you next week once we've wound down from the show, and I've got a bit of headspace and I'd love to propose, something to you? Absolutely fine. Or are you going to have a sales team waiting in the office that you're going to call them and say, I've got an inquiry, can you send out a proposal? And then you can say to the client, you'll have a proposal in your inbox in the next 2 hours. Whatever you decide is totally right, but it's worth just having a little thought process so you're not panicking and thinking, I need to find some internet or a seat to go and write this proposal. Kat, the centre part stand is great, loads of greenery. Yeah, they always have a good stand. Pinterest and Insta are great places for photo inspiration, definitely. We always use a QR code and the app. Great. Oh, the International Confex app will be live in a few weeks, so that's great. You can start downloading that. We're going to talk about what you can do with that a bit later. So, using Pinterest and Instagram is a great idea for inspiration for the visual side of your stand. Try and get some sort of idea about what you want it to look like I was saying, the vibe, the branding, etc. So that is information gathering. I'm not going to go through sustainability, accessibility, equality and well-being in a ton of detail, mostly because I feel like because I'm not an expert in it. However, I was really conscious that I wanted to include it because it is important. So when you can look at these, reread them, but yeah, just consider all of these points. Making sure things are reusable, being mindful of waste. If you're staying in a hotel, consider its location and what the hotel's sustainability policy is. Are your suppliers sustainable? Consider all of these things when you are prepping for the show, please. Accessibility and equality, again, something really important that needs to be thought of prior to the show, not suddenly on the day. All delegates should be able to attend and enjoy your stand. Be honest with yourself regarding imagery. Is it accessible? Does it feel like people will be invited to your stand? How can you make sure the stand looks and feels comfortable? And as I say, don't make this an afterthought. All of this stuff is really important, and I just want to make sure that it's in your strategy when you're talking about your show, or your stand, sorry. Make wellbeing a priority. So we're actually talking to Helen from Eventwell this afternoon in our second session. These are points that she gave me a while ago. So these are her kind of top tips, but we're going to be delving into them a lot deeper later. These are really great though to mention. Make sure, apparently she was telling me that you have to have 5-minute break every hour, or you're supposed to. But at an exhibition where you're like, I'm just going to go on a break, and then you walk through and you see like 1,000 people, and then you're back like 2 hours later and you haven't sat down once. But try and give yourself a little bit of headspace, or make sure that your team can have a bit of headspace every hour or so. Work together, appreciate others on your stand. Lots of water is a great one, because when you're talking loads, you get super thirsty. Consider loops if you struggle with background noise. I've heard these loads before, where you just put them in your ear and it filters out everything that happens around you. We can just have conversations with people in front of you. And let the exhibition staff know if you have any concerns. Having worked with these guys for a few years now, they are amazing and they're so caring. So anything you need, anything you want promoted, anything you are worried about, just speak to them and they will absolutely help you. So, how are we getting on? Let me know in the chat what you're thinking, whether there's any ideas, any thoughts, any things that have worked, haven't worked. Would be great to hear about what vibes you're wanting to create on your stands. And now I'm going to go through the difference between day-to-day sales and exhibitor sales. And actually, it's very similar, but as I said, the exhibition sales process is sped up, and I think it's worth us considering at each stage what is going on with the conversations that we're having, because actually we don't want to fall into that product selling where we're pitching at people and people will get put off. So a little bit of a grid here, looks like a formal grid, doesn't it? Normal sales process there on the left and exhibition sales. Strategy. Normal sales process, your strategy can be executed over a month, a year, 5 years, even longer. You can have a long-term strategy to achieve what you want to achieve in a quite decent amount of time frame as a business and kind of as with individual clients or client management. Exhibition sales, it has to be executed within 2 days. You've basically got to hit all of your objectives in 2 days. I mean, I don't want to stress you out, but it's not much time to be able to do that. So therefore, everything that you're doing prior and post the show as well, and within those 2 days, needs to align with your objectives and where you want to get to. So consultative selling, in the normal sales process, you can build rapport over a long period of time. You've got that, sometimes, you might have a week if it's super short lead, but you could work with clients for years and years and you build that relationship and it becomes stronger and stronger. It's not necessarily time sensitive. It's not like I need to prove myself and then they're gonna, have a great relationship with me and really like me and my business. Exhibition sales, again, it's a shorter time frame and therefore rapport building needs to happen really quickly. There's not much time to learn about the client. I mean, we've got the show over a few days, but actually the conversations, probably got 2 minutes to qualify, to be able to work out if they're right for you or not. All conversations are really time sensitive. So everything that you are talking about you need to be thinking about what that follow-up is going to be afterwards. Qualifying in a normal sales process, again, over a period of a few days, up to several years. I mean, if you work in the weddings industry, you've got, lead time of years. So that qualifying and working out can take a long time. For corporates or for shorter lead bookings, you often have several days, several conversations where you can work out what you can offer, how you can convert the business, how you can, create fans of you and your business. And in the normal sales process, that's often through phone, through email, on face-to-face, on appointments, through social media as well if they follow you on socials. So there's so many different avenues for them to kind of continue building that relationship with you. At exhibitions, you only have between 5 and, I'm probably being generous saying 20 minutes to be able to qualify and to be able to work out if they're worth spending time on you, or if they're worth spending your time on. And actually, you only have a face-to-face option as well. You've got to decide pretty quickly when they walk past your stand, having a few chats with them, whether you're going to invite them in, give them one of your really, nice gifts, whether you're going to ask them for an appointment afterwards. It's a much quicker way of qualifying. We're going to talk about the types of things you can ask a bit later. So closing consists of confirming a time to follow up during the normal sales process. we always say at Selling Savvy that closing isn't just about converting a piece of business at the end of the buying cycle. It's about closing at every single stage. So you get an initial inquiry and you're closing the next appointment, or you're closing a show round, or you're making sure that you're closing that permission to kind of follow up or keep the booking open, keep the inquiry open. So during the normal sales process, closing consists of confirming a time to follow up. It also consists of arranging an appointment, or obviously contracting a booking as well. During an exhibition, closing mainly consists of getting contact details to follow up. So mostly all you're trying to do with all the conversations is work out if they have the need to book from you, are they an ideal client, and are they interested? Do they want to meet with you? And can you have their contact details so that you can then later in your follow-up close an appointment or a further conversation. So the closing mainly consists of getting those contact details and kind of permission to follow up and continue. And that's real permission, not like, oh yeah, sure, scan my QR code, that's fine. More of like actually, yeah, I'm really interested. I would really like to do this. Shall we get a meeting in now? Or please give me a call next week because I'd actually be really keen to come and chat to you more. So everything is kind of based around that on the day. Following up, it's easy to be consultative on a day-to-day basis when you've had the time to get to know the client. It's really easy to be able to react and be able to talk to them about everything that they need, they want, what everything that they are looking for within when working with your business. And it's also really easy to be consultative when you have a specific inquiry, when you've got an inquiry that has details to it, and therefore you can be consultative because everything you do is based around that inquiry. During exhibition sales, to be consultative, you've got to get lots of information right at the beginning. You've got to make sure that you're asking the right questions so that you get the answers to react to, and you've kind of got to do it in a way as well that doesn't feel like an interview, or just like you'd ask firing loads of questions at them. So it's quite a bit more informal, I guess, and you've got to build that rapport, etc., quite quickly, which we're going to talk about how to do that. So has anyone got any questions in the chat? Let me know what you think. If this is something that you feel like you're doing really well at, if there's a stage that you feel like you struggle with. Sometimes I think that qualifying stage is quite difficult, again, because of time pressure, and it's hard to know straight away what people are looking for. Also, I think often people kind of, there's a lot of footfall going past your stand, so it's hard to like grab people. So it's like I was saying, getting the vibe right so that people want to come onto your stand. Kat, do you have some example questions? Absolutely, we do actually. I'm going to talk about speeding up the process here and how we can make sure that we're doing that qualifying, and then we're going to go into some of these questions that you could ask. So how can we speed up this process? First of all, this is the whole conversation, well, from start to finish. First of all, save time. This sounds a little bit brutal, I'm sorry, but spend time with the people who matter and move on from the people who don't. The investment in the show is big. We know that. We want you guys to make as much ROI as possible. And to make ROI, you've got to hang out with people that are going to bring you ROI. So make sure that you are identifying prior to the show who you want to spend time with. Go onto the app when it's launched, look through everybody that's attending, plaster it all over LinkedIn. I'm not a social media expert, but we do use LinkedIn a lot here, and that is going to be the place where you're going to be able to promote your stand. Find out who's going to the show. Have a list with you. I walk around the show with an actual list of paper in my bag, not holding it up, with a list of the people that I really want to speak to, probably 20. But if they're like people who, if I speak to them, I'll be, jumping around with joy. And I will tick them off. I'll go and find them, work out a consultative way to speak to them, and then just have a really nice, genuine conversation. And I will physically tick them off. And at the end of each day, me and my team will go through it and be like, oh, it's amazing, had that conversation with them, and they're really nice, they're really interested. And then be like, okay, these are the people that we didn't manage to speak to. Let's make them a priority the next day. Those are the people who matter. Obviously, you're not going to be rude to people who aren't as qualified, but work out, have conversations with your colleagues. How are we going to say to people, oh, no, sorry, I need to move on now. There's ways of doing it that's nice and not rude, and you don't have much time. So, Gina, do you have a process to follow up quickly? So we're going to go through follow up in a minute, but yes, I'm going to give you a step-by-step process. So a couple of sections about first impressions. This sounds like I'm being really bossy, but it is important. Be presentable. That probably is really silly to say, but make sure you don't have to be in workwear. It's not a formal show, but you want to at least look like people want to come and chat to you. Even on the second day when you're maybe a little bit hungover. Always be approachable. Make sure that you are smiling, even if your cheeks hurt. Make sure that you are smiling to everybody that walks past, and that you look like somebody that people want to come and chat to. No arms crossed on your stand. It's so bossy, isn't it? I hate this bit, but it is true. Make sure, consider your body language, open body language, smiling, ready to talk to people. Stand up. When people sit down at shows at kind of smaller desks, it feels like if you're walking past, you're going to interrupt them if you walk up to them. It feels like they could be on a laptop or they could just be sat down. It feels like you're interrupting them, like, oh, sorry, because you're kind of making them stand up. I know that's really weird and like odd human psyche to feel like that, but if you're standing, you instantly are more approachable. The only exception I do have to this is poser tables. If you have poser tables with like chairs that are higher, it's not so bad if you sit down because you're at eye line still with people walking past, so it kind of has like a different feeling. Don't know, I'd love to know all the psychic analysis behind all of that, but if you can, try and stand up or be at eye line with people as much as you can, because it will mean that they don't feel like they're interrupting you when they're coming onto your stand. Smile even if you're tired, and we're all so tired on day 2, but we smile because we love it and it's approachable. Be proactive. Make sure that you're at the front of your stand, inviting people on, having those good conversations, starting those conversations. Talk to the stands around you as well, get to know them, so you can kind of refer people on to them as well, and vice versa. There's a couple of things as well about being approachable, which is little bugbear niggles of mine. And that is, firstly, don't eat on your stand. Obviously, like if you're going to eat a packet of sweets or something, that's fine. But don't sit down and have lunch at your stand, because again, people walking past, they're not going to come and they're going to feel like they can interrupt you. Give yourself a break away from the stand. Do have a rota with your team so that everybody has a solid time where they can go. Like, there's super yummy food at the show, so go and find some yummy food and go and sit down somewhere and just have a bit of a break and get your head back in the game. You don't want to be eating at the stand anyway because you need a bit of time away from it. And then my second bugbear is no phones or laptop usage on the stand, because when people are on their phones like this, you're not going to come up to people, or if they're typing away on their laptops. If you've got emails to do, I totally get it. If you've got phone calls, WhatsApp messages to reply to, I get it. But just take a step away and go and, hide in a corner, or go and sit down, go and grab a coffee and just bash through your emails. There's quiet areas as well throughout the shows. So go and find a spot and do that yourself, so that you can then go back and be 110% on your A game on the stand. Sorry for sounding so bossy. But I'm sure you agree with me. Please put in the chat if you agree with me, that these things are important. So I'm going to talk to you about, sorry, I'm just getting my thingamajig up here, about beginning conversations now. I've got a few points of this. So how are we going to start the conversations? We're going to make sure that we are having a reason for people to visit our stand. That initial spark of why are they coming to you? That's your that is your purple cow moment. What is it? Because you've got fun gimmicks? Is it because you've got something that's a little bit different? Is it because it's bright and colourful? Is it because you're giving away free stuff? So why are they going to come to your stand? What are you then going to do? You need to build that rapport really quickly from the off. Lots of people do this naturally, and I think it's important as well, if we've got any kind of directors or managers out there watching, to consider who's going to be on your stand, and making sure that the team members on your stand are confident enough to be able to talk to people and bring people on your stand and build that rapport really quickly. Sometimes people can be a little bit more shy or not quite sure how exhibitions work. So talk to them before, do a little bit of internal training about how they are supposed to be acting, and give them some confidence to be able to build rapport really quickly. So build rapport quickly. So we're smiling, thinking of body language, shaking people's hands if appropriate, and then you've got to qualify quickly. And actually, qualifying is all about asking those questions. So we're asking earlier what sort of questions. Ask questions like, do you book events, or have you booked in an event in the London area before? Or, oh, do you, what AV people have you used before, or something like that. They're just off the top of my head. But making sure that you're asking questions that are niche to the types of clients that you work with. So how are you going to work out what you need to know to be able to move forward? And that's a team conversation as well. Like, you could have a brainstorm about it. You don't want to seem like you're being pushy. So you've got to build that rapport before you then start asking, have you ever booked, I don't know, a venue in London before? You've got to get that rapport bit ready to warm them up before you then start asking salesy questions. So this is a breakdown, there's a few bits here on the juicy bit of the conversation. Know what information you need to gather, and this is all in line with the questions you can put together. Whether they have the requirement to use your service, that's number one. Therefore, are they going to be worth spending your time on? What is their key decision in booking? So if they've used businesses similar to yours, why have they used businesses similar to yours? What is their reasoning? Is it a location thing? Is it a budget thing? Is it a type of service? And what's the reason why they've used them? There'll be key decisions that are kind of a bit more top level, like location, budget, and there'll also be nuanced key decisions like relationship with them, or you know, the service that they provide that's a little bit more in depth. Those are the in-depth decisions that you want to find out, because then you can work out how you can kind of mirror that, or work out whether you can also offer that, or if it kind of ticks your box, as it were, as a company. You want to get information to support rapport and consultative conversations. So to support that rapport, that's all about what holidays they've been on last year, how long they've been in their job. Maybe they've just had their 2-year anniversary in their job. Maybe they just got married last year. All of that information, write that down, or do it however you want to do it. When I gather information at shows, I don't like to write it down or type it, because I feel like it takes me away from being in the show. So I tend to voice note myself, or like I just say to a friend, you're going to receive loads of voice notes today, just ignore them. And I'll walk around with my phone, talking into it, telling myself of the conversation, reminding myself of the conversation that I've just had with somebody, all the nitty-gritty detail about their holidays, etc., and also about business. And then it means that I'm at eye line with people when we're walking around the show. So then if I see somebody I I know, I can just stop the voice note and go and chat to them. I find otherwise I'm scribbling loads of notes and then they're all really messy and I can't read them afterwards. So then obviously you need contact details as well. Don't forget that. That's quite important. We've then got how you're going to react to them within this conversation. You need to be able to sense the tone. You need to see what type of person they are. Are they formal people? Are they, what are they wearing? How are they showing up? Or are they a little bit more informal? Do they feel quite casual, like they want to chat? You can get this with what they're wearing. You can also get it with the types, what they're giving back to you in terms of conversation. And you can also get it from their facial expressions and their body language. So do they feel like they're genuinely interested, or are they a little bit standoffish? If they are standoffish, then there's ways of warming them up, asking questions about them and building that rapport. Do they have time for a long chat? The show is so busy, everyone's got so many plans, there's lots of education sessions going on, there's networking events, etc. So can you tell if they actually want to have a conversation or if they're rushing off? And if they are rushing off, then let them and say, should we arrange an appointment a bit later? Or where will you be? I'll come and find you in an hour. Something like that, because you don't want to put people off because you're putting too much pressure on them. So appreciate and value people's time and try and gauge whether they're happy to kind of hang out on your stand for a bit. And decide what you're going to offer them. Are you going to sit down with everyone who comes once you've qualified them and offer them, if you've got drinks there, are you going to ask them to come and sit down? Or is it going to be more of an informal, quick thing so you can move on to somebody else? That all goes back to what your strategy is for the event, whether it's, who you want to speak to, etc. So that's the next bit. And then you've got to close effectively. So, make sure that you know what you need from that person. Usually what you need from them is an appointment afterwards. That's the main thing that you want to get out of the show, I would say. Please tell me if I'm wrong here, but I would say every conversation you want them to agree that you're going to follow up, and then you want to arrange an appointment with them to have more of a conversation, unless it's a solid inquiry straight away. So you need to gather all necessary details, all the information, etc., get all the contact details and everything, and then confirm the next steps. You can make sure that you know what your next steps are. We're going to go through the follow-up process in a minute. But make sure that you know when you're going to be following up with them so that you can confirm that. I'll drop you an email next Friday, and I'll give you a few dates of when you might be able to pop in and see the space, or when I might be able to give you a demo of our services. So that's the closing section of the conversation. We've got one more bit of this conversation that we're having, and that's thinking about the follow-up already. Write notes. I talked a little bit just now actually about voice noting so that you can consultatively follow up. Be careful with overusing the zappers. We need to ask Gina and Saskia if they're using zappers this year or if they're doing something in a different way. But when exhibitions have zappers, and that's like the QR things, I don't actually know what they're called, but QR codes that zap the QR code, it's excellent and it works so well. However, sometimes you can end up with 500 people and you can't remember who's who and which one was qualified, and I've spoke to a really good person, but where are they in this big list? So just make sure that you are gathering or writing notes on, or voice noting, or whatever you want, or going straight into your CRM if you want to. Make sure you're doing that with people, with all of the really qualified conversations that you're having. There is also a great way of connecting with people on LinkedIn if you wanted to start building a database that way, or if you want to kind of softly introduce yourself so that then you're connected for a longer period of time. And that is using the QR code on the app. I don't know if anyone's used that before. If you, on the LinkedIn app, if you click on the search bar at the top, a little picture of a QR code comes up. Click on that QR code and then people can scan your QR code and you can link on LinkedIn. That's a really nice way, because then you get people in your vat of contacts. We do a lot of LinkedIn training at Selling Savvy, so that's a great way of getting people in your vat of contacts in LinkedIn, and then they'll be able to see all of your activity, and you're kind of building warm relationships through social media, as well as communicating with them after the show. So we're going to talk a bit about follow-up now, and this is post-show. Now, hopefully everything that you've done prior to the show, the vibe on the stand, the conversations you're having, the collateral you've got, your purple cow, it's all based around follow-up. All you need to do to get ROI on the show is make sure that you're following up effectively and people are interested in talking to you after the show. It's quite invaluable to have great conversations at the show if then they don't lead to something after. So you're trying to work out throughout the whole show and within your strategy how you can make sure that you're going to follow up effectively. I've got some do's and don'ts here. Do prioritise your leads list. As I said, you could have 500 contacts, which is amazing. Which 10, 20, 30, whatever, are you going to focus on first of all? Are you going to, how are you going to do that? Are you going to just scribble their names down or write their names down at the show, the really, really strong ones? And how are you, and in what time frame are you going to prioritise them? And what are you going to send to them? Because you don't want to be, I'm going to go through this in a minute, but you don't want to be sending a blanket email. You want to prioritise those people that you're going to spend time on, and send them something that's really consultative and relevant to them. It's also worth carving out quite a bit of time to do this. We often find with exhibitions, we spend a few days there, we spend a lot of time, a lot of energy and effort and a lot of money at these shows, and then the follow-up sort of thinks a few days later, oh God, I really need to go through that list. When am I going to do that? Carve out a whole day in a diary. Pretend that the show is 3 days, and put out the day after, or whenever you can, a week later, whatever, to make sure that you are following up with everyone and spending time on it, because it's all a waste of money and effort if you don't prioritise that follow-up. Focus on the decision maker. If you've met a few people from one company, work out at the day or after the show by having a little LinkedIn stalk who the decision maker is, and make sure that they're the people that you are focusing on the most. Make sure that they're the people that you're spending the time on following up. I'm not saying don't follow up with the others, because if you've said that you are, then that's fine. But make sure that in terms of time spent, you're focusing on the decision maker if you've met a few different people. Take your time, as I say, make sure you allocate the time to do it. It's really important. So there's always a lot of discussion around what the ideal time frame is. We've talked to businesses that have so many different opinions, and I always get asked, what's the perfect time to follow up? We tend to say 5 and 10 days post-show, and that is because between 1 and 4 days post-show, their inbox is crazy with people following up, and also emails that they've missed because they've been at the show. So we tend to say wait a little while. You can send emails earlier if you want to, and then between 5 and 10 days you can phone and see and make sure that they got your email, etc. We're going to go through that flow in a minute, but make sure that you're doing it in a relatively prompt time frame, but don't feel like you have to do it that evening or that next morning. You could also ask the people that you speak to. I would ask them, what would you like, when would you like me to follow up? Should I give you a call next week? When's a good time for you? What's your email address? I'll put it in your diary. that sort of thing. That is true sales closing, making sure that you've got an allocated time, you know when you're going to speak to them, and it's not just like I'll email you, hopefully you'll reply. So consider that time frame and follow up at the show when you're having conversations as well. Use your CRM. If you don't have a CRM, then there's lots of free ones out there, which I would recommend using, even if it's just for the sake of the show. Make sure that you are putting in all the information, all of the contact details, etc., into your CRM from the show, and also putting in all of the notes of the conversations you've had. So, I mean, my voice notes takes me a while to having to listen to my own voice for ages, typing them up, but it's worth it. Put all of that information into your CRM, and then once you've followed up, that information goes in there, and you can start putting actions or tasks, whatever they're called, in your CRM for the future, so that you can make sure that you're actually going to do that and that you're actually going to follow up with them. If they've asked you to follow up in, I'm actually going on holiday after the show, can you call me in 2 weeks? Great, that needs to go as a task in your CRM. So CRMs are pretty game changing when it comes to proactivity and relationship building, especially if you've got memory like mine, where it's awful, I have to write everything down. So use your CRM. Work with your reactive team. So your reactive team speak to a lot more people and businesses than you do. So when you get back, communicate with them. These are the people I spoke to. Have you heard of any of them? Have they ever booked with us before? Have they, is this a company that you've heard of? Go through your company CRM. Have they booked years ago? Is it a new contact that you haven't heard of? Or is it somebody that already books that you just hadn't heard of before? So communicate with your reactive team at your sales meetings, or just kind of loosely, informally in the office, and ask them questions, because they might have information that you're not privy to, which will really help with your follow-up and help clinch that post-show appointment. Ask them if they know anything or if they've heard of anybody. And confirm the next steps. Confirming next steps is that we do a lot of mystery shopping for clients to identify sales skills or lack of sales skills, and there's next steps at every single stage, and that's because it's really important as a salesperson to take control of the cycle and be able to softly nudge people through that buying cycle. So at every stage, at the show you're confirming next steps, at the follow-up you're confirming the next steps. That next steps could be click on this calendar link to book an appointment, or it could be I am working on your proposal and I'm going to send it to you within 24 hours. Whatever is going to happen next, it's good for them to know. And it could be that they need to do the next thing, as in like they need to click the link and book an appointment. But it means it's not just sort of left hanging in the air, like what is like, hopefully you'll get back to me at some point. And it could be, looking forward to hearing from you, I'll give you a call next week if I don't hear, or something. So confirm whatever is going to happen next. Some don'ts on the follow-up list. Don't use a template. Now, using a template, absolutely fine. I kind of feel like I should reword this. We all love a template because it saves time, but you've got to make sure that that template doesn't look like it's a template, that it is easily changeable, and that you can change the words and the way it's formed, and obviously names, etc. as well, to make sure it sounds like it's personalised. And it might be that you have a few different niche templates. You might have templates that are specifically for a certain type of booking. You might have, weddings and corporate templates. You might have B2B, B2C. You might have venue and hotel templates. You might have different types of templates. And you can niche down even more than that. We work with clients that have like 6 different templates, and then they know it and they can copy and paste it, and it's really quick, but it sounds really niche. So make sure that you are not sounding like you're using a template, even though you might be. Don't send the same email to everybody. This potentially comes with a caveat as well, to be fair, because if you've got 500 contacts, you're going to be sending 500 bespoke emails, because maybe like 400 of them won't actually be totally relevant for you to have an appointment with. So, you know, I've been zapped on the zapper lots of times at exhibitions, and then I get generic emails just with attachments of information. That's kind of fine, because if I'm not going to buy from them, then oh yeah, I've got your information, you know, stored in my Outlook, so I'll get back to you if I need you. But you don't want to be sending the same email to all of the qualified people. You've qualified them for a reason, because they're really good and you feel like they're going to be able to use you. So make sure that email reflects that. Don't send tons of attachments. People don't want them. It might be that you talked about a specific product or service at your business that they're interested in. So you can send them just an attachment of that. Don't send them an attachment of everything. They don't need to see it. Or can you send them links instead of attachments? A couple. I probably wouldn't put more than 3 links in an email. Mostly because firstly, they'll see it and think, I do not have time for that. That's going to get ignored until I feel like I have time, which maybe never. And secondly, people don't want to bung up their inbox with loads of attachments, and they won't go through them. When we do our mystery shots, we have lots of people we get proposals, and some of the proposals, we have proposals that are 37 pages long before. People aren't going to read them, and they're so beautiful and they've spent so much time on them, but people just aren't looking at them. So decide what those attachments are, and whether they're actually links rather than attachments to your website if you've got information on there, and work out what's going to be relevant to who. So don't sell. This sounds a bit weird, but this is not the time. The point of the follow-up is to have an opportunity to be able to sell to them. The chances of them buying straight from an email, again, is quite slim. So I would argue that in terms of a sales process, you've got the show, then you're following up, and then you're having an appointment, or at least a phone call, or, you know, even if it's a virtual call, then to delve into it so that you can then propose. And this is purely proactive. Obviously, if they've given you an inquiry, you're going to straight away propose to them. But this is about proactively prospecting really the people that you've met at the show, and keeping that opportunity open until there's a time when an inquiry is relevant. So now is unless you've had a conversation specifically about something, now's not the time to sell. Now is the time to clinch an appointment. And then on that appointment, that's the time for you to shine and sell and be amazing. So we have don't leave the ball in their court. Sorry, this is the last one. So make sure that you're the salesperson, you are the expert in your business, product, service. So make sure that you are telling them what you are going to do or what they need to do next. Don't just send them information into the ether and keep your fingers crossed. You need to be proactive at ensuring that they know what is needed if they're interested, and also proactive in keeping that lead, that prospect alive, and that's through following up, CRM, etc. So we've got lastly a follow-up post-show time frame. So this is everything you can do, and you can screenshot this or go back to it if you want to kind of write it down, or put a template workflow in your CRM. Add name, organisation and contact details onto CRM, including all details of the conversations, as I said. Write an email to follow up between 5 and 10 days post, obviously unless you've talked about another time frame. And you want your email to include a friendly introduction to the email, which means mentioning something that was discussed during your meeting. So that is anything that's a little bit more personal, a little bit more informal. You want them to feel like you listened to them. That's your proof of trust, so that they feel like they trust you and that you're genuinely interested. And then detail in the email what was discussed with regards to business requirements. And then obviously we're going to confirm the next steps, whatever they may be. Again, add all those details to the CRM. Your email might funnel in there automatically. schedule an activity or a time in your diary for the next follow-up time. So if you don't hear from them within a week, maybe you might give yourself, or less or more, whatever your kind of prospecting campaign is, to follow up with them. You need to carve out time for that follow-up, because I can guarantee if you don't carve out time, it ain't happening. So you're going to carve out a day. You're going to pretend the show is 3 days, not 2, so that you can have an extra day for follow-up. And then a week or so later, you're going to carve out another half a day to follow up again. ROI doesn't come from the show itself. It comes from how you prospect after the show and how you build relationships. So you've got to keep on top of it. Otherwise, it all feels like a bit of a waste. And then phone within the next 2 weeks. So that's the follow-up. To build further rapport, if you've got their number, it's best to phone. I know that phone is a bit of a kind of question mark point at the moment, because a lot of people are saying that clients don't pick up, or people don't want to speak over the phone. We've done a lot of research in it at Selling Savvy, and we really feel that the best point of call is to phone first, to at least try and leave a voicemail, and then email saying, just left you a voicemail but thought I'd email as well. Another great thing that we're seeing in the industry is WhatsApping. If you had that sort of rapport, or maybe it's a regular client that you know well as well, then you can feel free to WhatsApp. I WhatsApp clients who I know really well. It's quite a quick and easy way of communicating. So it's up to you to work out whether that's appropriate or not, but it does work with with people you know well. So phone within next week and arrange an appointment. And then you've got to add all of those details again to the CRM. Everything needs to be sitting in that CRM, because that's your like external proactive brain. And then schedule another time to follow up. And then essentially you're going to continue this process. This is what prospecting is, until an appointment is arranged. So then you keep getting in touch. There's statistics around cold leads. These leads are a bit warmer because you've met them at the show, but saying that you've got at least, I think it's 7 times, you've got to contact people at least 7 times before they even take notice. So don't feel like you're being pestering. I mean, don't phone them every day, because that is a bit pestering. But if you're leaving it a decent amount of time and you're just hopping in their inbox, or, you know, leaving them a quick voicemail to see if the time's right, they're going to be busy too. They're going to have oodles of people wanting to follow up with them. So just don't give up too early. Prospecting proactivity is super hard and it can feel quite draining. But this, once you've met and qualified these people, that is a solid group of people who are interested in working with you and who have the need. So don't give up on it. So I think we might be almost done. We have a follow-up checklist which we can send out. We can give to MASH to put on their social media, which has got a tick box of everything that you can do to follow up and to make sure that you are maximising the show really as much as possible. We've also got a mentoring program that I think Kat's going to put the link in the comments, which is all about asking sales questions about your business. So we're running mentoring sessions, free mentoring sessions on our stand at the show, which you can book onto. And if you're a hotel, venue, event agency, event manager, come and see us, book on a session, and we'll help you with anything. Doesn't have to be exhibition based. But yes, and if you've got any questions, I'm very happy to answer them now, or I'll keep an eye on the chat as well if anybody wants to come in late and ask anything. But yes, thank you so much, everybody. Great to have people chatting, and see you at the show.